evening, fight fans. Welcome to another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. I'm your boy Bodkins, and of course, with me, as always, is your boy Bobby Balance. Bobby, man, the world of MMA has. There's only really one thing. The best topic to talk about right off the bat is not fights, not who's fighting who next, not what happened really inside the octagon, but all the craziness that is happening outside the octagon for the second kind of week in a row. Controversy is here in the MMA world. I mean, last week we kicked off the show talking about eye pokes and this and that. This week we have to start kicking off the show with illegal gambling and fixed fights as that has taken over the MMA Twitterverse, universe, whatever you want to call it. As we know right now, Saturday night, Isaac Delgarian was heavily favored against, I'm probably going to butcher his name, Del Valvi at one point in time. Then a bunch of money came in on Del Valvi, and the books were alerted. Allegedly, Dana White went and talked. This is Dana said that they went and talked to Isaac, Mr. Dalgarian, and said, "Hey, is something going on? Are you hurt? Like, oh, we had all this money come on." He said, "No, we're ready to go." And he went out there and he looked like me and you would have fought our first fight ever. And was, and for all intents and purposes, everything that's been reported, Delgarian was pretty much a good top prospect, very high. People ranked him pretty high as far as like guys that are coming up in this world. And he was choked out in the very first round by Del Valle. And, the books did stop money. A lot of books did stop money coming in at one point in time. Took the whole fight off, so that alerted some things. Dana White said he immediately called the FBI. Since Saturday, we've had several fighters kind of chime in and say that this isn't the first time that they've heard this or they have seen this happen before. They've been approached before. Multiple fighters, and multiple fighters, it seems like, out of representation of one management group. Is that correct, Bobby?
That's kind of like where it's been pointing to, is a decent amount of them there. It was kind of bizarre, like watching it unfold, because the World Series was coming on for Game 7, so I was getting ready to put that on and kind of dual watch, and PC Strickland was running a space, so I was in the space like from the start of the card. And we were just kind of, shooting the shit, talking about the fights. And we were making picks and stuff. So when I went to leave, I kind of gave all my picks. But I also dropped a tweet in the space talking about the irregular kind of betting activity and stuff on the Isaac Delgarian side. And kind of just told everyone in there, hey, watch out for some fuckery in this. Because, with the line moving back and forth, I mean, we kind of had the James Krause situation previously. So
almost 3 years ago today, like 3 years ago today.
So we've technically like seen this song and dance before. So I think we all kind of at that point assumed that Delgarian would look fairly compromised or something going into the fight. And you would kind of see that. But I didn't really get that inclination at all. It was just... he was just there in the cage. But, the commentary, made light of him, throwing punches when his back was being taken, just doing, very unwise stuff. And apparently they shut off the first round finish prop. Like, that is what was heavily being juiced. And that's like the first thing that was shut down. And then when that got shut down, I guess people just kept hammering the money line and stuff. So there are a lot of people that just have the perspective, hey, this is similar to the Krause thing. It's just an injury leak, yada, yada, yada. And then, there are other people that are saying, no, this was an issue that they knew about for, like probably a 3-hour window or something. The person I've seen that's been doing the best reporting on it has been Harry Mack on Twitter. Like he originally broke the scandal part of it, and then obviously was met with a bunch of pushback from, let's be real, probably the betting bros and all those people saying, you don't know what you're talking about. But then when you see the fight actually play out, like the way it did, um, maybe he lost that fight, but that looked like, if you were to point at something that seemed like a guy taking a dive, that seems like a pretty textbook example to me. And even in his body language, like afterwards, it just really seemed like he knew there was going to be some like controversy into it. And the biggest part of the scandal to me is that the UFC knew this and just let the fight go on. I mean, like, give me a break. This is on an Apex card. Like, only the real hardcores is watching this. They're under no contract obligation to keep the fight on. They could easily pull it. And I don't know if they just felt no worry for blowback. So they figured, hey, we checked with him, so we're cleared. But I don't know. It's good they called the FBI, but to me, it wasn't the most thought out process, in my opinion. I can't believe they let the fight go with because the books will catch this stuff when with that much money like goes into it. So it that's the more head scratching part to me. Not that it happened, because I mean these scenarios, unfortunately, this is kind of the devil you let in with, the DraftKings sponsorships and stuff. So definitely a mess. I mean, it's a shame because there were some, decent fights to talk about on the Apex card. Like, it did deliver entertainment wise. Ironically, I thought you were going to start with saying we could also start off talking about another poke, because I mean, there was more than one kind of head scratching moment on this thing. But yeah, and sure enough, like when I was looking at the card this weekend, I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but there are no odds for any of the matchups.
Oh,
It
I
just
haven't
shows
seen
the
that.
fighters.
I'll have
So,
to take a look here in a second. Yeah,
but,
I'll look at
but
ESPN
of
better.
course, that didn't stop the Dana White Drafts King promotion popping up in the pop-up window. But yeah, definitely, it's not one of these things happen in MMA things, because we've seen this in other sports. Like the NBA is literally dealing with a similar issue. But when these type of things get so much more popular and caught up, there's no way the regulations are going to catch up with them. And I think that's kind of what we saw on Saturday night.
Yeah, so you mentioned Harry Mack. It's BB Harry Mack. Harry is Harry Mack on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Has done some great reporting. I want to like debunk a couple things that people are saying. I don't. First of all, like people are like, it's gambling's fault. It's they because more states are legalized gambling and they do all these promotions. You're opening up yourself to this. First of all, that might be somewhat true, but I also believe that I believe that most of this stuff, like I would say, like you can catch them more, right? Because the books are being alerted, but gambling has been happening and fixing fights has been happening since money was invented, since the first time somebody ever came around. And we're talking decades, we're talking a century, you know what I mean? Since the early 1900s, fights have been getting fixed. So I don't so for people who are like, oh, that's this and this and that, I do think that you could go back, and there's probably a lot of questionable. I think much like the NBA, there's probably refs that could be looked into that could be taking this, and when it could also be judges as well. I don't believe that they're taking like the top guys, right? I don't believe you're getting that. There's too much money involved. They're making good money, but these low level guys who are 12-12, and you're like, well, shit, man, 24,000. If I win, I can take a loss and get $75,000. And we know in especially in the MMA world, losses don't mean shit. You can bounce back the next time. So, and I think it's easier to do, but I do think this type of things have been happening and going on for a long time. Mac has recently just reported here. We talked about the Jeff Molina and Krause case here about an hour ago. He had a conversation with Jeff Molina. He said, high-level overview, as a manager has gone on record with me stating Jeff was a lone wolf operator and orchestrated this entire scheme. So this was talking about the Krause and Jeff Molina last year. It seems extremely unlikely to me a single fighter, even marred in past controversy, would be capable of pulling off a multi-million-dollar fight-fixing operation, hence why I reached out to Jeff for his perspective. He says he denies the allegation that he reached out to Dulgarian to throw a fight and denies having ever engaged in such a behavior. He states James Krause is no longer involved in MMA. I quote, doesn't even know how to spell the word gambling, the word gamble anymore. So there's that. As far as Dulgarian, like, I don't know if this was, it seems like the interview with his coach was on Ariel Helwani show. It seems like that part, I don't think his coach was involved. I do think it was a fighter, himself making that decision, not the coach. Because I think, the coach is like, he threw my name, everything else is in question. The FBI is obviously heavily involved, but they're still investigating the previous case from 3 years ago, and much more. Dana debunked whether it was 100 fights.
When you say that.
Yeah. Dana debunked the 100 fights because Harry Mack did report that federal regulators have flagged over 100 UFC fights this year for abnormal betting patterns. So,
yeah, but Dana also kind of took that a little out of context, because him saying that 100, the regulators flagged that doesn't necessarily mean that he's talking about like 100 fixed fights or something.
Yeah, it could just be a lot of money.
Easy for that to get flagged.
Yeah, probably true. Also, I will say, like, Dana's like, why don't you guys come to me? All these guys saying, why don't you come to me? Why don't you come to me? I think that's a hard thing for fighters to do. And like, we also know how things roll in the real world, man. Snitches get stitches. You know what I mean? So who you gonna?
I mean, look what they did to James Krause. Why the fuck would anyone come forward? Like, they excommunicated him like that. And that's probably the same thing that these people thought would happen to them if they did come forward.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with, like, I probably wouldn't go to Dana either. And who knows, like, how far this goes. This is a all sports problem. Like you mentioned, the NBA, it being a factor too. So I think it's going to come across all sports. But we're at the NBA, MMA right now is at a point in time where they're going to have to figure some of this out. I do feel like eventually these sports books, we're not going to have prop bets, period. I think that's going to go away eventually.
I mean, so how do I explain this without divulging too much? So basically, before gambling was legalized, all right? And when I'm talking legalized, I'm not talking about like in Vegas. I mean, with all the online sports betting and stuff, that is like the main thing that they really kind of are making their money on, is the props and stuff. Because the props are kind of always known as, most gamblers will look at props as like a sucker bet or something like that. So it's kind of a way, for example, I remember back in the day, I would always grind the Jimmy Butler over 2 steals prop, like when he was in peak form in Miami. And you would wait for it to come up every day. You would hit it. And I hit that maybe 17, 18 times in a row or something. And my bookie told me, like, hey, you need to play something else. Like, you can't just be doing this, you're taking no risk. Now, granted, that it was like nothing above board or anything like that. Yeah. But in the reason I'm like explaining that is because in this scenario where you have literally anyone that is in these states that literally has the sports book in their pocket, that part is almost impossible to regulate. And it just kind of, you think of how many things they could have maybe missed in the past. And like, that's like when I saw his tweet saying there were the 100, at least 100 irregular things. I completely believed it for just like scenarios like that of people playing these props and they'll shift, because normally like a prop starts at minus 110, like it's even on both sides. And then when people go into it, and that number will grow if that thing starts to hit over time, because obviously they adjust it with, when money's going into it. So I just I don't know how they're gonna let this cat back out of the bag, because like I do agree with you that eventually they might just have to null and void it altogether, because it's almost something so hard to police. But with how they've already established it, I just don't think, they're gonna let it go, because they're just gonna continue to want to like implore those sucker bets.
Yeah, I mean, Rob says it maybe best here. I heard someone say props are the equivalent of liquor in the restaurant business.
Yeah, I mean, especially that I understand the aspect of them for being able to, oh, I only need to worry about like a player getting so many rebounds and stuff like that. Like, the reason the Terry Rozier incident is so unique is because he's the first player that had like a decent contract and salary to
Yeah,
do it, you know and obviously that stuff's all up in the air. His lawyer is fighting it and he's saying he's completely innocent. But that's like where I push back with like the fighter pay aspect of this conversation. Because like, though I do agree that is probably the gateway for these people being able to be approached in the first place, you see guys like Rozier kind of getting caught up in these same scandals. So I think the biggest issue is there's no putting this back in the bag now that it's kind of caught up with the sport and stuff. Like, think about it just like 5-6 years ago, before like gambling was even, this big and stuff. Like, now you can't even watch the weigh-in show without getting 5 John Anik, advertisements.
yeah.
It's just, it is the sport now almost.
You're right, and every what do we every time a fight's announced, they show the odds. You know what I mean? They show the odds every fight. Every fight, we know who the favorite is and who the underdog is. And at the end of every fight, it said, what do they say? If you would have done this and this, you would have made this. So like their whole sport, especially the whole MMA world is evolved around gambling.
Yeah, and even in between the fight, they're showing you the live odds of being like, hey, you didn't get this. Oh, you see
Yeah,
this person getting 50-45. You want to hit on the comeback, and it's pretty wild.
it is. Rob wants to know too. He says, does gambling go the tobacco route? No more advertising. I don't know, because I mean, big tobacco is a lot, and that's a lot. I don't know if they do that or not. I think that's a good question. Because eventually we didn't have any more tobacco advertising, but it still happens, and I think gambling may get there. But right now, it's a
But
lot of
this,
money.
so this is the genius part about what all these companies have kind of done already. Like, they've already infiltrated it to where even if you take them off television, I mean, look at Ariel Helwani, Luke Thomas is on the DraftKings network. Like,
Yeah,
they have now embedded sponsorships to, like, even if you take us off like national television, they're going to find ways to still get stuff going. So
yeah. They want to
there's no,
sponsor us. We'll gladly sit here and be drafted. Sponsored by DraftKings, FanDuel, whoever. Yeah, I'll take it.
yeah, and I think that's why it's such a gray area, because it's not just the UFC. Like, this is all MMA, but almost
Yeah,
all sports.
yeah. But I mean, I think it's easier, right? Like it's easier to me in the fight game and in like NBA and maybe like pitching in baseball to mess up those props. Does that make like to control control it a little bit more? Like in football, it's
Yeah.
hard to do, right? Like
Well,
it's harder to do in the NFL. I feel like
it it is, but at the same time, like I hear every Sunday that the games are rigged. Like, I mean, it depends on which game it is, but
yeah,
it's and like the Rozier thing was a scenario where the Hornets were tanking. They took him out of the game, and he played like 10 minutes or something. So he hit his under because of that. And now I think a big way they're fixing those, you see, like if players get injured, they'll just wipe the bet off. So I
yeah.
think that's like been how they've been trying to regulate it, but it's a very hard thing to do over so many different sports. So you're going to have these lapses.
Yeah, and to circle back, I agree to your point. It's like, why did they even have the fight? Like the minute there was flagged, they should have just. We're not talking about a fucking title fight. We're not even talking about a main card, a main fight on a main card, like just even a
In
fight
front
night,
of a
right?
crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We're talking the fucking Apex, the prelims of the Apex. Uh, that's what we're talking about. And really, if you think about it, this is the second time that we know that this has happened in the
Yeah.
Apex. You know,
Well, it
maybe that's
was
the problem, Bobby.
technically on.
Get the fuck out of the Apex.
Yeah, it was on the main card.
Oh, was it? I thought it was a
I think.
prelim.
Well, I think a lot of people just consider the entire card prelim, so it's hard to. But I want to say it was like the fourth or third last fight, maybe the fourth. Um, you know, but it might have even happened right before the Waldo. No, I don't think it did because I think there was one more ahead of that. But I definitely think it was on the main. I mean, I don't know. Card placement is kind of it. It seems like they are, not to like add to the conspiracy, but like the Apex seems like the perfect scenario ever to try to get by on some prop bets and make some easy cash. Like if you're trying to do some shenanigans, you would target an event like that.
Okay. So this just came out about a little bit a while ago. Says here the UFC met with FBI after suspicious bet. The UFC and FBI are actively working together on investigation into unusual activity ahead of the fight, according to UFC. Well, that's what he said yesterday. But this says the Bureau is moving in. Behind the scenes, two sources confirmed the FBI Sports Integrity Task Force has been tracking suspicious activity in combat sports since 2021, years before the Kraus scandal broke the surface. What started as a few isolated cases will evolve into a full-scale federal audit. Agents will now come through every layer of the UFC's ecosystem, referees, judges, and matchmakers and managers to determine whether any non-fighter personnel may have benefited from manipulated outcomes. Over the next 6 months, the Bureau will issue subpoenas for sportsbook data, commission correspondence, and UFC internal communications. Investigators will cross-reference referee assignments with line movements, studying whether officiating decisions consistently align with betting anomalies.
That literally just confirmed everything that Harry said the last 2 days. That's
he's the one that tweeted out the story. Somebody yells, Smoggy MMA says UFC state media story.
Yeah, no, Smoggy is legit. And like I don't understand the people trying to combat this and say, because it's like, well, has he ever reported anything else? It's like, I don't know, but this is a pretty big fucking deal. Like, and you saw the fight.
Yeah. Agreed. And I don't care. Like, it seems like obviously credible, right? Because like you got Dana.
No, I think he is being 100% genuine. Like he is in the industry, and it's credit to him for that's not really an easy thing to come out and do. Anyone that thinks he's doing it for clout needs to go touch some grass. Like, come on.
Yeah, he's on top of it. I actually have his tweets since the story broke. I've to stay on top of it myself. I got his notifications, his tweets on notes. So.
You would have to think until I'm one of the things I'm so interested in is if they are offering lines for the UFC this week.
Let's take a look right now. So I'll pull up. Let me pull up. I'll pull up ESP. Let's pull up ES. I'm gonna pull up ESPN right now. They got the lines on ESPN, so they do have the lines on ESPN. Let's pull up the UFC, just like on the UFC website. So we go to events. Upcoming. Okay. Oh, what do you know? As soon as I click on the events, what pops open, Bobby?
A DraftKings ad.
Yeah. They don't on the UFC website. They don't have the odds up.
They scrubbed it like Bilal's Palestinian flag. Literally.
Yeah. So they don't have the odds up right now.
Yeah, that part is not too shocking, but as you can see, you're looking at actual books and they have it up. So I think that might just be maybe we shouldn't show this at this moment. But at the same time, like, you got to get that ad money. So I mean, that just completely defeats the purpose of taking it down.
Yeah. Hey, go here to look up the odds. Not on our don't exist. Says over under 2.5 more fighters admitting to being approached by mobbed up gamblers on Twitter. I'm actually going to take the under after Dana came out and bashed them for doing so. So they're probably worried about if they're under contract. I'm going to take the under. If they're not under contract, I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so. Normally, I like disdain going straight back to the Apex. It's so fitting that we're back in the Apex again this weekend because you're going to get the same thing, and it's going to be pretty hard. Like, say someone has a bad performance. People are instantly going to be like, well, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I feel bad for any underdog that loses on Saturday. Because, they're going to have the eyes looking at them. And, it's just not good.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting what happens forward. And how much, and now you go back and everybody is going back on Twitter, pulling up old fights and questionable fights. And I've seen a lot of, older fights that were questionable at the time between judges, refereeing.
Well, I mean, I say this isn't a real sport probably 30 times a podcast with scenarios like this when you see whether it's officiating or the judging or just, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to Waldo, but just instances like that where it just seems to be done so much on the fly. And that seems to be exactly how the UFC handled this. Like, they had multiple hours. They could have just easily pulled it. And, they got their reassurance from the guy and said, oh, Isaac said he's good. There's no issues. And I don't know, like, just at a certain point, you think they would step in instead of taking a fighter at his word when there's some heavily suspicious stuff going on,
I have not seen this. So he said, Jason Herlock saying Harry Mack is taking hormones was the best part of this. I have not seen that.
I'm not positive if that's Herzog or a Herzog troll, but because, you always see those wild things. But, and like, even after that all happened, like when the Waldo Cortez fight happened, I instantly, because like in my mind, when I saw that, even though I was watching Game 7, I just figured that fight
So
was rigged, and he threw it.
let's talk about both referee events because you brought up Waldo. We'll start there and then we'll go back to the other one with the referee. So in the Waldo fight, it looks like he is getting finished. I actually saw. I think it was Ben the Bane Davis. Waldo Cortez, the only person to get TKO'd and then win a TKO in the same night. He is actually looks like he's getting TKO'd in the first round there. Is it Degia Ante? I'm just gonna say Ante because I don't know how to say his last name. But Ante looks like he's finishing. It looks like the ref waves his arms. To me, it looked like a stoppage, right? Like I didn't watch it in live time. I had to go back and rewatch it. I was watching Game 7. I was locked in. I'm a one TV person. Most of the time, I have to be focused in on one. And I'm a flipper, but yeah, I was. So I went back and watched it later, but it looks like he waves his arms to stop the fight. The teams come in the octagon to as if the fight is over. They go to replay.
And then he ironically waves his finger that he poked him in the eye with, celebrating.
Yes.
You could not make this shit up.
And then Waldo Cortez comes out and he wins the fight via TKO. Obviously, he's holding his eye. He's talking shit about Tom and everything else, and rightfully so. Go ahead. Promote your fight. You know what I mean? Get your name out there, Waldo Cortez, and talk your shit to try to, get you a title shot. You're probably, the more you win, more you talk. But your thoughts, A, on the refereeing, and then B, the Waldo talking shit.
I mean, it's just you saw his fingers extended, like it was an accident waiting to happen. It's almost comical that it was Tom Aspinall's training partner,
right?
Especially when they asked him questions about it, and obviously those aged poorly because of the situation, but like you could not script this any better. It was so bizarre, like that even happened. And yeah, he definitely caught him with the poke. They saw it on the replay, and I just assumed at that point that it was going to be made a no contest, which I found even more ironic that, well, this is the second heavyweight fight in a row. It's going to end with a no contest eye poke when they claimed they were going to do their attempts to crack down on it. And, but yeah, the wilder part to me was like that the fight was resumed. I don't think you'll ever see that again. Well, but then again, you think back to when the Neil Magny fight got resumed. So
yep,
it just kind of goes back to more of the stuff on the fly. I did think in real time that he waved off the fight, but I also did see the poke in real time, so it was kind of up in the air. But it was very bizarre to see it, continue. But it continued, and then Waldo, who's not really known for being the heavy hand puncher, just laid him out and finished him. And it was just comical, like especially seeing it like during Game 7, because like I'm wanting the fight to kind of end as quick as I can to 100% focus on the TV, and it's like, you got to be kidding me! Like this just keeps getting, the eye poke. The fight should have ended. They resumed it, and then the other guy gets blanked. And I gotta say, credit to Waldo for making a terrible, scenario and being able to fight through it. I mean, you saw his eye was really bad, but I think, he just didn't want to do the no. He knew it would be a no contest if he said he wouldn't continue, and I think he wanted to get paid, so he just said, let's do it. And if you replay that scenario 5 times, does that happen? I doubt it, but
I thought the fight was over. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's the eye poke that's going to be heard around the world. I love that with a throwaway Apex card, Waldo is like in the news and you're hearing his name about it. I think it was a great choice for him to put the eye patch on his Twitter handle. That you're one win away in that division, and this is kind
He
of
called
putting
for
his.
Curtis Blades next. Give him to him.
I mean, if Gone for some reason has to pull out in the rematch, you know who they're going to call on short notice. The guy that was able to do it, and a wild scenario, but unfortunately, we know it's going to happen again. I can't remember the other fight, but there was another fight where I was just watching the guy's fingers the entire time.
Yeah.
Because it was just,
Again, and to his credit, what non-existence Kyle Nelson versus Matt Favola a couple of weeks ago won, but he also made his gas tank and had a hard time continuing. Both guys fought like shit. Yeah, and Ante, same thing. You think you want to fight, then you got to go back out there and then reload up after the energy dump, right?
That's got to be such an insane adrenaline dump. Like thinking you won the fight and then being like, oh no, that I made a mistake sort of thing. And,
my bad. Yeah. And that wasn't even the other one that was egregious. I can't remember which fight it was off the top of my head, but where he literally is choking the guy. I thought he was knocked out, Bobby, because like I was playing spades and I had the baseball game on a little bit, and I glanced over at the TV, and I was like, oh, he knocked his ass out, and then they show the replay. No, he choked him out, and the guy was tapping, and the ref was in the worst position possible.
Yeah,
and just lets him get choked out, and he's just laying there unconscious.
Yeah, his arm was trapped, so he couldn't like extend it and tapped it. So, but yeah, that was another bizarre occurrence, and I'm pretty sure that was Herzog, who that like if they're talking about honoring referees, he's going to the top of the list. Because like this has not been his year at all.
And just thought of Dominic Cruz is calling the FBI right now and saying, fucking check fucking Keith Peterson. I need you to check Keith Peterson. That motherfucker.
I mean, could you imagine if that actually came out, like, especially during the pandemic? Like, there's so much like you can rabbit hole with this, and that's kind of why I'm just waiting to see like where they go with it. But I'm not really optimistic we find much out, because I mean, look at the Kraus thing.
I do think we'll find something out. I think it'll take a couple years. Like, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. Like, I mean, it took them 3 years for the Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups and all that stuff, right? Like, these things are going to take time. So we'll probably move. The sport moves fast, right? Like, shit, like I said, people by next week will almost forgot about this until it kind of comes back around to the next incident. It's going to take some time because investigations take time. Like, this isn't something that's going to go away, but the sport will continue to move forward, but we won't know about some of these things until 3-4 years from now.
And like by then it will be even worse, like, I mean, that's why I'm just not optimistic that anything like happens or changes, because they can do all the investigating that you want. Like you said, their show is going to move on. They're going to be back in the Apex taking those bets this weekend. So,
and I 1,001% believe the UFC is not behind any of this, because why would they risk all the money, all the sponsorships for this stuff?
Yeah, no, in no way do I that. Like, why are you gonna jeopardize a 7.7 billion payday? But I do also think that doesn't mean they're completely not at fault for kind of overlooking some of these things.
Agreed. Have they turned the blind eye to a couple things? 1,001%. Agreed.
I just feel like anything we get from here on out is going to be more like kind of window dressing to be like, hey, you remember that? Like, this is what we're doing different for that. And I
What
don't
do you
know.
think? I thought I read that Herb Dean said they were all going to meet yesterday or something at some point in time and have like a big powwow about the finger pokes and eye pokes and all these things. But maybe that gets put to the back burner now with the gambling thing. So I wonder, it'll be interesting to see like what happens there here with like which story do they try to focus on first.
I mean, considering the feds are looking into the gambling aspect, there should be no excuse for them not to figure out the fucking eye poking, because that's something that they can actually control. You
Agreed.
know?
Yeah. 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 Uh, no, he said if Herb Dean is on the case, I think the issue can only get worse.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that Herb has been, told to do the overs with the way he just lets the guy die. So
Yeah, yeah. Uh, um, Before we get look at this week's Apex card's a lot better, but I want to talk to you about. I mentioned to you before we started the show about John Jones. He's been on some pod. Well, first, he shows up to Dirty Boxing right on Thursday, I believe last week, Thursday or Friday, wearing the horse with the eye patch. Obviously a nice troll job here.
that's funny. Like I cannot stop laughing at that. And especially with Waldo putting the eye patch on his Twitter thing, it immediately made me think of the fucking horse.
Yeah. So kudos, John. We know John Jones knows the internet and control like nobody's business. But he was on some sort of podcast. I don't know. Yeah, with that after the dirty first, he was with Schmo and pleading to Dana that he wants to be on the White House card.
How bizarre was that first part?
Him
Like,
pleading with the
I
Schmo.
would use the word begging.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The biggest, I mean, second biggest fighter, that you have is begging to be on this card. So I think Dana wants him to beg more, wants him to kiss the brass ring 1,001 times over for the debacle that was Tom Aspinall, John Jones. And speaking of that, is he was recently come out on some sort of podcast saying he watched that fight. He said he took, degraded. He thinks Tom's wrestling and jiu-jitsu is overrated, and he only has a nice 1-2 punch, and he thought Surreal was gonna win. He thought Surreal was piecing time up and was feeling it and everything else.
All I heard was John Jones missed out on the easiest payday of his life, and he's talking about it on a podcast.
The podcast person should have done a good job. Now I'm sure Tom's never going to go on somebody that's going to ask him a hard question in Dana's life, much like Dana White. But like, why didn't he take the fight?
Well, on that same thing, to me it always came down to the respect factor, and Tom just rubbed him the wrong way with that, because whenever he's talking about Pereira, the first thing he says is he showed respect, like he massaged his ego, and I think that's always been John's poison pill in taking that fight, enough to literally say, I don't want $30 million. Pretty bizarre.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. I don't know how you get that Tom is jiu-jitsu and wrestling is overrated by watching 2 minutes of that fight.
Yeah, no, he was making. We all know why he made the comments, and I guess I just don't see it as much of a flex as John does when we know he turned down a $30 million payday to not fight the guy that has bad wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Like,
right.
What the? I mean, come on. Like, does that not sound stupid as fuck?
I think he doesn't think that we all know that. You know what I mean? Or maybe he does. He just doesn't care.
Like granted, he's always really gonna have the ride or die fan base. So like maybe he's just saying it for them. But you know, if I said this last week, if Tom won that fight, he wasn't going to call out John Jones or Pereira. He knew neither of them wanted nothing to do with him. He was going to, fight a Waldo or someone like that and keep the division moving. This Alex Pereira John Jones fight is not in the division. It's just two guys that are fighting at the heavyweight limit, but neither of them are like a heavyweight in the division as far as the title goes.
Agreed. And we don't know if that fight's going to happen. Dana didn't seem like too keen on it, so we'll see what happens. And speaking of fights that allegedly could or could not happen, but Mike Chandler on Ariel said today he does feel like the back in the Conor business, maybe the fight that'll never go away, the fight he'll never give up on. Does seem that Conor and Mike Chandler are going to be fighting at this White House card.
I mean, and I'm being genuine when I say this. Like, even though I have no interest for it, I hope it really does happen for Mike because he has sabotaged his entire, like, a big portion of his UFC career, kind of waiting around for this and stuff. And granted, this one has like a much more proper end date. If it isn't happening in June, he can probably jump off ship. But I don't know, man. Like, maybe he's just doing it because we in the Patty loss, like it looked like he was just not being in the octagon. Really, like he was just running away from Patty completely, and like literally, I'm not exaggerating. He was running backwards. So I don't know. Like maybe it's the best fight he has a chance of winning for. So that'll probably be the one they're holding in their back pocket. But it's just going to have to be one of those ones that we'll have to see in the cage that we're actually believing it's happening.
Yeah, I agreed, but I just think it's funny that here we are 2 years later. Time is flat. You know what I mean? We're just going to continue to what we've done before. We'll do again.
I mean, it's Chandler's filming the movie and stuff, so he probably has the time. He's getting his own gains outside the cage, but it's a real shame because he is an entertaining fighter to watch. Like the personality, pick you up by your boots, ego aside, his fights are entertaining and they're fun to watch, and I just personally think there's a lot more intriguing guys for him to fight in the division than Conor.
They ain't gonna make that much money. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah. But at the same time, this is why he's been on the shelf for like 2.5 years.
Agreed. We'll see what happens there. What is next? So I mean, here we are. How many times? What's the over under? How many fighters ask already to be on this White House card or politic? Like I don't. It's gonna be insane.
I mean, we're already kind of seeing it, and I don't know. I get maybe because it's recent, but it seems like the best thing to compare it to is UFC 300 or the Sphere, because we had the same thing with those two cards. Like, let me get on this, and I guess now you're hearing like that other world leaders are going to be in attendance.
So that's what the report is. It's not going to be like the average Joe, me and you, aren't going to be attending this. This is going to be world leaders. It's going to be like a birthday dinner for Trump. They're like, hey,
we're going to have Netanyahu in the front row. But like, could you imagine if like someone gets a knockout and they hop over the octagon and I'm like, good Lord, like, it's the Paramount era. Get ready for it.
Here we go, baby. Buckle up, kids. Speaking of Francis, I wanted to get your thoughts here too. Jake Paul versus Tank Davis has been called off. They've pulled that fight. What is your take here? Jake Paul trying to fight Francis Ngannou. I don't know why Francis didn't do this. That's an easy payday.
Honestly, I find it a bit comical. Like MVP's statement about it, saying like, "Oh, we have women on our promotion. Like, this will not stand. We're appalled." I'm sorry. You knew who you were fighting. Like, save this virtue signal bullshit. Like, they were told by Netflix that, hey, this ain't gonna work. We got to find a replacement. You can't tell me if Netflix wasn't involved, they would have went through. Like, Jake Paul used it in the promotion. He called him a woman beater.
Yeah.
He was using that at the press conferences. So, I mean, I'd say let's save the fake outrage. We win in the end because neither of us really gave a shit about this fight.
I'm probably not going to care about who the replace. I probably would have cared a little bit if it was Francis. I would have tuned in.
To me, I'm with Francis on this. Like, fuck Jake. Like, why should Francis have to bail him out for a bad situation, bad judgment, to get us something that we want? Sure, but actually, nah. Like, fuck him. I do not care. And now it's, they're going to rope us in with Nate. And you know me, I'm Nate, ride or die. But I don't need to see that. Like,
I didn't watch it the first time. I'm not going to watch the second time.
I don't know. It's just so tiring to me. Like, I really found it comical of Ariel's like praise for this needed to happen. Like, oh, you weren't that opposed to it when you were working it. And again, we knew who Tank was, and MVP with the thing saying, well, he was trying to use this to rebuild his image. Save that bullshit. Like, they were using his image to sell the outrage for this fight. And then it blew up in their face. So I'm happy it happened. And I was laughing let's not ignore the elephant in the room. The ticket sales were doing poorly. And
nobody wanted to see it. Nobody wanted to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, the Netflix aspect of it, like, they were probably set to make their money either way. But everything I was seeing on it was the ticket sales were just so terrible. So now all of a sudden, Tank's a piece of shit. So we have to, like, save it. The thing was a bust. No one wanted to see it. We've all wasted enough time on it, and we can actually enjoy our Friday with our loved ones. Like, good. And I'm glad Francis didn't take it.
I'm a disappoint. I would have rather Francis. If Francis would have fought him, I probably would have like tuned in. I would have been intrigued by it. And I think that Francis probably should have done it just to get the easy payday.
I think it shows to Francis and other people, like, though the payday and the money is all there, they're still kind of about prize fighting, and they're just not interested, which is kind of wild when you know Francis's story and stuff. And yeah, you can say his boxing fights were somewhat gimmick fights because it was MMA versus boxing, but they were all sanctioned and under a rule set. It wasn't some exhibition because the guy was so much smaller than him.
Yeah, agreed.
And I get the aspect of the what if we could have actually seen someone, but honestly, like, the rage bait of me wanting to see Jake Paul get KO'd died so long ago. It's just a stale pandemic gimmick that it might interest other people. If that works for you, good for you. It does nothing for me.
Yeah. Let's look at. I just want to this Apex card. Well, not like the top like I don't think the main event is like it's a good fight, but not like main event worthy. But like there's some good fights on this card. I mean, the main event's a good fight. Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. That's dang near split on the odds. Speaking of gambling, but you got Joseph Morales and Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell's always in a good fight. Um,
Yeah,
Christopher
and
Lee. Go ahead.
Morales is coming off winning the last Tough, and he's been in the UFC before, so he was kind of probably the favorite to win on the show, but he looked good there. He's heavily favored, like minus 342. So
Minus 450 on ESPN.
yeah, well, keep an eye out if the no, I'm kidding. But so yeah, like that one's intriguing me. You know, we got Ricky Simone on it, like you were saying, Christian Leroy Duncan, and you know, if I can take anything away from last Saturday besides the fuckery, is we always do forget to not judge these fights by their covers, because the event as a whole absolutely delivered. Like the prelims were lit, so you know, this should be a much more entertaining watch on paper, but at the same time, these things, if you got the time for them, do end up delivering in the end.
Yeah, Josh Hokett, remember, he was the guy who cut the promo on Contender Series, makes his UFC debut. He's quite the heavy favorite, too, at minus 400. So you also got Morena, former title contender Morena Bueno Silva on this card, taking on Jacqueline Cavalcanti. So MBS is actually a dog at plus 230. So Ricky
Yeah, they
Simone.
buried her on the prelims.
Yeah. So but
and then
nice.
probably a deciding fight for Robert on the opening the card there. What's his last name? Do you have it pulled up?
Miles Johns and Daniel Marcos.
Oh, they might have pulled it. What's it's showing the first fight on the card?
Yeah, Miles Johns versus Daniel Marcos.
Okay, yeah, I think he might have been the one that pulled out. It was still ironically showing it on the UFC's website, so I thought maybe his opponent pulled out. But so yeah, never mind on that. Scratch that one. But
yeah.
You know, it's we got one more until MSG, and I think it will be a great appetizer for that. The main card's built pretty well, so I'm not mad at it as I am kind of traditionally. I don't
They
know.
could have combined both cards and made a, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, this might be the first time I'm actually happy we're in the Apex, because we're getting the exact same setting from last weekend with the scandal. So I'm just curious if like anything's different or if it's just exactly the same. Like, I mean, I didn't get into this, but like they had Yanni the Greek on a podcast talking about it. I think that's the last motherfucker I want to hear from on a scandal like this. Like, save it for Saturday, Yanni.
Yeah. I mean, next week we will get all into UFC 322 live from MSG, headlined by the welterweight champion JDM versus Islam. Plus, you have the women's, the two best women in MMA, Valentina versus Wei Lee for the flyweight championship. That MSG card is stacked, baby. I can't wait. My dick can only get so hard thinking about it. Can't wait we'll break all that down next week. UFC 322. Bobby, before we get out of here, you got any final thoughts?
No final thoughts. Shout out to Kike Hernandez, Mr. October. I knew you did plenty, Kike. It's not your fault if, ignorant Blue Jay fans don't think you did. So ignore that noise and, enjoy a back-to-back title.
Yeah, Clayton Kershaw off to the sunset.
Yeah, definitely a cool moment being able to actually get that last out. The previous time when they brought him in, he got like shelled, and it was like, oh, that's probably going to be his last time. So, stuff like that works out. I'm sure someone will say, oh, it was scripted and I had the gambling slip for it. So, um, but yeah, it's good to just be able to watch the fights and focus on those instead of having to dual watch. But that was a big win for baseball. You saw the ratings for that.
Oh yeah, Game 7 was incredible. That series outside of 2016, obviously, for myself, uh, ranks right up there. My first one, I kind of really was like, this might be one of the best World Series I ever saw, and games I ever saw was Rangers Cardinals. I think it was like 2011, if you remember. That was the David Freese series. Obviously, 2016 will always be my heart. And then this series, just every game had an individual series, like story, and it was incredible. So, feel bad for the Blue Jays as a Cubs fan. So, we've all dealt with those heartbreaks, and that was one of them. But all right, folks, you won't have to deal with any more heartbreak because we'll be back next week, 8:00 Central, 9 Eastern. We'll talk about UFC 322. Can't wait. It's an incredible card. Enjoy the fights. Don't do anything stupid over the weekend, like fix fights or anything. So other than that, be a friend, tell a friend, like, subscribe, share. We appreciate y'all. See y'all next week. For my guy Bobby Blunts, I'm Bodkins. See y'all later.
And enjoy that first tush push on the Packers.
Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, let's talk sport, friends. Thanks for watching.
I couldn't resist. Oh, we're still recording.
Oh shit. Yeah.